Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today I am going to speak about delusions. I recently saw, and there's a man by the name of Chef Gordon Ramsay, and he does shows on all these restaurant people who need help, but when he tries to help them, they are in denial and they argue and they fight back and they get hysterical and they become just absolutely off the wall. And what is amazing is how he stands up to them and he doesn't let them beat him down and he just keeps answering them back and standing his ground. Well, of course, he has a whole staff behind him. They're not going to physically attack him because he's got, I don't know how many staff people and camera people around him. So no matter what they yell and scream and threaten, and some of them threaten, and some of their relatives and friends threaten, he knows they're not going to physically do anything. So, I mean, if you're alone with somebody, especially a woman with a man, I can guarantee you do not try to stand up to them unless you can hold your own physically or you have a weapon or something. So don't let his balls and his bravery cause you to do anything that is dangerous. By when you're alone with a man, don't confront him, don't try to tell him off. I have been beaten up by men when I stood up to them, and a lot of my women friends have been. They told me, yeah, I got beaten up because, and I read about and saw in forensic files and different crime shows and everything, when you stand up to somebody that's crazy or a criminal or anything, especially if you tell a man you hate him and you're not, he's disgusting, and insult his manhood, and tell him you're going to leave him or indicate you're going to leave him, you're done with him, you don't love it. That's cause for injury. Okay, so don't do as Gordon Ramsay does. And after Gordon Ramsay, there was a whole plethora of men doing the same thing he did, and I didn't know they were following in his footsteps because I saw Robert Irvine, and I admired him, and I saw about 100 of his shows. And then there was a big Jewish guy who did Bar Rescue, and I can't think of his name. I should have written it down, but I can't think of his name. And he was amazing, is amazing, and both he and Robert Irvine are just incredibly, unbelievably amazing in what they do to shake up people and to make them wake up and smell the coffee and see reality. But okay, but now I'm talking about delusion. So this one particular show that I saw recently really got me, um, because of the delusions of the owner, absolute delusionary attitude. And yes, this will segue into my religious, spiritual doctrine and observations, how it relates to religious, spiritual life. So the name of this place is called Sebastian's, and the owner is Sebastian. Um, so what was what was remarkable was how shocked this man was when he was so delusional, and they're all, most of them are, I'd say 99% of them, 99% of them reach out to Gordon Ramsay for help. And then when he arrives and he tells them what's wrong, it starts with the food. 99% of all the people who he tries to help, their restaurants, the food is crap by his standards, not by their standards. Some of them think their food is a 10 or it's perfect or it's great or it's wonderful, but he has a standard that is much higher than theirs. He has discernment, which not everyone has, but he has a very high discernment because he has studied deeply and carefully with the greatest chefs on earth, most of them French, several of them, and he absorbed them like a sponge. He absorbed their teachings like a sponge, and he knows the difference between bad, good, very good, excellent, and perfect. He knows what is wrong, and whereas most people would grin and bear it, like me, I try to find the best no matter where I go. I don't have that kind of discrimination the way he does, and I don't need to. I don't have to. I just have to. I eat to survive, okay? To survive, and if it tastes good, I'm happy. If it's not that great, I just say, okay, fine. So I don't have his position. I'm not him. My discernment and my standards and my ability and my skill has to do with spirituality and show business factors and promotional factors and things like that. It has nothing to do with food. Food is one of my least, probably at a scale of 1 to 100, of the most important topics that I am good at, skillful at, and know a lot about. It's probably way down there in the between 20 to 100 as far as food goes. So there's no comparison between me and him, and I can't compare myself to him, and I don't compare myself to him. And so most of these people are deluded, and they might like their food. They a lot of them say before he critiques their food, he's going to like my food. Some of them are just scared and shaking. I mean, there was one chef who collapsed and fainted at the thought that Gordon Ramsay would critique his food. I pitied him so much, that poor man. He just collapsed. He couldn't handle it. He was so afraid, and that would be me. If I was a chef at the ability I have, and I was a professional chef, when I know he would critique my food, I would just disappear, run away, or collapse or something. If I couldn't run away, I'd collapse probably. But anyway, what is amazing to me is how delusional these people are, and how they fight back, and how their business is going down the tubes. They're losing money in huge amounts of money. Some of them are in debt. One of them, the most recent one, was in debt to almost $2 million, and yet kept arguing with him and making excuses, not really arguing, but making excuses. And whenever you straighten people out, they always have these BS answers. BS. They do that with Judge Judy, too. Judge Judy, the famous lawyer judge on TV, on YouTube, who tells people where it's at. She tells them like it is, and they make excuses, and they argue, and excuses, and argue, excuses, and argue. That's the human nature. Human nature. And I'm telling you what, after you die and you appear before the perfect majesty of God, there will be no excuses, because God already knows all your excuses. Uh, God knows your abilities. God knows your transgressions. God knows your sins. God knows your excuses. God knows your excuses. And if your excuses are legitimate, and I mean legitimate, God will excuse you or show mercy. In most cases, you need mercy when you give excuses, or, well, I was abused, this and that, and I had to do this, and this happened, and I had to save myself, I had to save my child, I had to save my family, I had to, on and on. But God knows, forgive them, for they know not what they do. It's all up to God, it's all up to God. But I've seen human behavior. I know human behavior. I've spoken to many, many hundreds of people in interviews. I've spoken to them trying to save souls, trying to help people, trying to bring them closer to God. And the nonsense they come up with, the nonsense, the bull crap that they come up with, of why they don't need God, why they don't need to go to church, they don't need to pray, they don't need to worry about their eternal life. When they come up with all these bull crap excuses, I hope God thinks more highly of them than I do, because I don't. I don't think of them highly. I think of them on being on the broad highway to hell. I think they really are, most of them on the broad highway to hell. The saints say that most people are going to hell, so I am within my jurisdiction to say that I agree with them. All right, so now he comes to this place called Sebastian's. This is in Southern California, in one of the valleys. I lived there for almost 10 years in Southern California, in Hollywood, Beverly Hills, and Santa Monica, and Pacific Palisades, and all those areas, all of which are fairly close to, the movie industry. But his restaurant is right by two movie studios. The name of it is Sebastian's, and it's right by two major movie studios. And the people who work there, most of them are actors and actresses, people in show business, and they're working part time. Obviously, they're not working as actors full time because they're working either part time or full time at his restaurant. And he turns it into a big party. And one of the things Sebastian says is that he greets each and every person personally, and he speaks to each and every person personally. Well, here's my take on that. If you have to do that, then there's something wrong with your restaurant, because this is not a party, a social gathering. This is a gathering of food. And if you're selling food, your food has to be the best it can be. And if it's not the best it can be, you can have other gimmicks like being friendly, meeting everybody face to face, chatting with everybody, uh, being Mr. Charming or Mrs. Charming to people. So you might get them by your charm, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you will put money in your pocket and for the restaurant. That doesn't mean necessarily you'll sell food. Maybe you will sell some food, but they won't be coming there for the food. They'll be coming there. So why don't you just open up a social gathering place, a bar, just a bar, where you have drinks and just talk to everybody. Why have food? Okay, so what? And this guy was bragging about, oh, I've been cooking since I could walk. I learned from my mom. I learned by myself. As soon as I knew how to walk, I knew how to cook. Put anything in front of me, I can cook it. You should hear this guy going on and on and on about his cooking skills. Okay, so Gordon Ramsay comes in and he tastes that's the first step he does. He tastes the food, and it was awful. He asked him if the clams are fresh, and he's lying. He told the waitress to tell, or he himself, I don't remember which it was, but he claimed it was fresh clams. And then Gordon knew they were frozen, and then he told him, he asked the waitress, are they frozen? And she said, yes. Okay, so now he caught him lying. And by the way, a lot of chefs lie. These chefs, a lot of them lie. Even one very distinguished French chef lied to him recently. I saw about little nuggets, potato nuggets, which he had told his worker, his sous chef, to put into the deep fryer. There were four large vats of potato nuggets. They're like balls of half balls, like if you cut balls in half. I don't know what you call them. And he told him to put them in the deep fryer. And Gordon kept asking him, you put these in the deep fryer, didn't you? And he said over and over again, 5 or 6 times, that he did not put them in the fryer. He did not, did not, did not. Imagine lying like that. And this was a distinguished chef, French chef. So Gordon Ramsay looks into his kitchen and his cold room, the freezer and the cold room, and like 90% of everything that he creates is processed and frozen. And he also uses a microwave, which is a very negative, very big negative. For Gordon, it's because of the taste, texture, and all that. For me, it's health, radioactivity, plus the taste and the texture. I've only eaten. Well, never mind. Just don't use microwaves because they're radioactivity and they cause cancer. Not to mention that they make food taste bad. Some people think it's okay. I don't. Gordon Ramsay doesn't think it's okay, but he never mentions about radioactivity or health issues. He just talks about that he doesn't, he looks down on microwaves, that's all. Okay, so now pizza is one of the biggest things that this guy does. Pizza. And guess what? Even the pizza, the the bottom of it comes in frozen. It comes in frozen, and he doesn't even toss the pizza dough, or his employees. They don't even toss the pizza dough to make their pizzas. It comes in frozen, in like you have big tortillas like that, like big. Well, he doesn't have real big pizzas like I've seen. They're like medium sized. So they come in these medium sized packages, frozen, and he just opens them and defrosts them. Everything he serves, uh, hamburger patties, I mean, everything was packaged. Even the mashed potatoes they were mashed, but they were already prepared in sheets, believe it or not. Sheets of mashed potatoes, like an inch and a half tall and like a foot long, and I don't know, 8 inches wide, came in frozen sheets. And this man is bragging about he can cook anything that's put in front of him. Well, any moron can take stuff that's frozen, put it in a deep fryer or even an oven or a microwave. It's already prepared. They did all the cooking and fixing and maybe seasoning as well. I'm not sure if these items are seasoned or if he has to season them, but nevertheless, they're pre-packaged and pre-cooked. And so Gordon straightens him out and tells him, "You're a fake chef." He just tells him straight out, "You're proud of being a fake chef?" A fake chef? And the guy is so deluded that he's in an absolute state of shock. If you ever seen somebody in shock, the look on his face is shock, but he keeps talking, this Sebastian guy. And he says to Gordon, and this is going to make you laugh like crazy. He says Sebastian's is going to become a franchise. Now, he said this more than once. He said Sebastian will become a franchise and his name will be famous. And Gordon looks at him in an incredulous manner and says, "You are so deluded. You think that you are going to become a franchise when you're preparing and serving all pre-made food uh, out of the freezers, pre-made, pre-packaged, pre-cooked, everything food. Nothing here is original or made from scratch, and you think you are going to be a franchise all over the US or the world or whatever." The guy was deluded. So this is what I call a deluded person. Now, when I speak to people about the new religion, when I am heard, or when I speak about matriarchy or female superiority or men going extinct, I get a reaction from people of being brainwashed and deluded. Brainwashed, deluded, frightened, yelling at me. I've had many death threats, especially when I asserted female power and female supremacy. The females are superior to men, females should be liberated. I have had men take all kinds of revenge against me. Most of the time they couldn't reach me physically, so they couldn't do anything to me. I said most of the time, not all the time though. There have been some occasions which I have spoken about in other areas in my life story books and everything, where men took revenge on me because they knew me in person, they saw me in person, they saw an opportunity to get even with me, only because I spoke about women's rights and female superiority and such, and the unfairness of patriarchy to women. And Now, what happens when people react? I read this somewhere. When they react in a very emotional, it's actually fear. It's called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive is the brain, Cognitive. Cognitive. Dissonance, it's like Dissonance. Dissonance, cognitive dissonance. They react as if you physically struck them. It's like if you took your fist and punch them with all your might. They act because you attack their brain. See, they have cherished assumptions. Many of these assumptions are delusions. And this is what Gordon Ramsay and Robert Irvine and the bar rescue guy, they face this every single day. And there's other hotel rescue and I don't know, there's all kinds of rescue things came up after Gordon Ramsay initiated his original work. But they never give him credit. See, they never give you credit. I've done a lot of, I'm the one and only who got things started, and I'm never given credit. That goes with the territory. People don't want to give you credit. They want all the glory for themselves. I did it. It's me. I'm the big shot. It's their ego. Their ego. So, okay, now cognitive dissonance and delusions. So people have assumptions which are wrong, delusions which are wrong. They are lying to themselves, or else someone else lied to them, or else somebody brainwashed them, programmed them, hypnotized them, and they are set in their beliefs. And when you say something to the contrary, they react as if you punched them. And this guy acted as if Gordon had punched him again and again because Gordon refuted all his delusions. And at one point, he did all sorts of things to try to offset the shock, but he couldn't handle it. He could not handle the shock. And at one point, even though Gordon gave him a new menu and redecorated his place and showed him how to succeed, he had 2 wood fireplaces or ovens. I'm not sure if I guess they were ovens. They'd have to be ovens, not just fireplaces. And he was using these ovens as decoration and just burning some wood in them. And Gordon changed that into wood pizza burning ovens, which no one has. No one has around there. No one has. So this was a unique, remarkable feature. Then Gordon brought in 2 professional expert pizza tossers who taught Sebastian's staff how to throw the pizza dough into the air and turn it into big, nice, lovely pizza foundations, pizza crusts. And the employees were very open and willing. They weren't deluded. They knew the owner was off the wall. So, but at one point, and after Gordon has given him a new premises, a new menu, a new way to make pizza, a new formula to succeed, and this guy is failing big time. He got $300,000 from his wife, and that's what got him opened up. And he wanted to impress his wife. I don't know how his wife believed in him so much. I don't know how and why, but apparently he's got the gift of gab, or the gift of con artist, knows how to lie, or no, he's so convinced of his own lies that he convinced other people that he can cook. And Gordon saw right through him immediately within a few split seconds. And his employees knew that. So at one point, it shows this guy just walking away after Gordon has already given him all the answers. He just walks away from the set. He does another weird thing. He goes into a room that was not remodeled and recleaned and redone. He goes in there and starts scolding and yelling at his employees that they don't do anything, they don't clean anything, they don't help him. He has to do everything himself, and he starts vacuuming and cleaning, and then he just shoves the vacuum because he's using this as an excuse to escape reality. And then he marches out of the kitchen, marches out of the restaurant, and goes outside yelling and screaming and cursing at Gordon, cursing at, because he's in cognitive dissonance. He had the delusion. See, this is a person who's living in their ego, wants to be an actor. Most actors or actresses are living in to some degree in their ego, because their ego is tied up with their self-image and their how I look, how I act, my promotion, my fan clubs, my publicity, the money in my bank, am I a success, am I a failure, that type of ego thing, very connected to the earth, very earthly feelings and thoughts. So he goes out, and you can see him from the back, and he says, "No cameras," or something like that, and he curses and curses and curses. Well, and this is right in the what they call the relaunch, where Gordon has fixed everything, and now they're having the new menu, the new concept, the new premises, and everybody's filing in, and they've got to take care of business. They've got to feed the people, and he just marches out, and everybody, his employees, are all in a state of wonderment. What happens next? How are we going to finish, feeding all these people and making our money for the day? Because these are poor people. They need their daily allowance, or they can't feed their family or themselves. They can't pay their rent without that daily, stipend that the restaurant gives them. Well, thank God he gets over his delusion, well, his hysteria, and he comes back, and he calms down, and he comes to his senses, and he gets to work, and they survive. I am bringing this whole story to you because of how people are deluded. People are deluded about God. I went to earlier in the year of 2004, it was January, February, March, for 3 months. I went to a couple of local bar restaurants. One is a plain bar, one was a bar restaurant. I went out to meet people because I couldn't work on the computer. I was having such severe eye strain that I was having migraine headaches with, lights at night. When I would try to sleep, I would see lights in my head and buzzing in my ears. Terrible, very powerful symptoms. I literally could not look at the computer again because I had been on the computer 8 hours a day, average, 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, or even more, 10 hours a day for almost 2 years. And finally, my brain gave out as far as the over uh, stimulation of the aspects of the eyes, the eye abilities in the brain, the ear abilities in the brain, and they all went bonkers. So I had to take off, and it took me 3 months to recover. Well, during those 3 months, I thought maybe I could build a church locally. Maybe I could gather some people. I could gather some people locally, and we could have a gathering every week, a religious church gathering. I could preach and teach. We could pray together. They could request their prayers to be answered, because wherever I go, people's prayers are their needs. It's not just prayers, it's needs. When they tell me their needs are somehow supernaturally rectified, and healing occurs, problems are fixed, dilemmas are solved. Uh, a severe drug addict, after a year of my being present with her mom, she went into rehab. She got back her child that they took away, and then she had another child, and she began to work constructively, and everything was set right. And then another woman, her grandchild had severe digestive disturbances. They were going to operate on the grandchild, and I said, no, your child will be healed And a couple of months later, when it was time for the operation, they examined the child and they said, the problem is gone. The child doesn't need this operation, because the operation would have stayed for the rest of the child's life. Somehow the effects of it, I don't remember the details, but the effects would have stayed the rest of the child's life. And so God healed it. I didn't even pray. Then another woman was being stalked by a man for, like, I don't know how long, 6 months or a year. I told her, next time he calls you, put him on the phone with me and I will take care of it. And that's all I said. I did not pray. I did not do anything. But a week later, I came in and she said, what have you done? I said, what do you mean? She says, the guy that was stalking me, he suddenly called out of the clear blue and he says, you'll never hear from me again. I said, I didn't do anything, but God did it. I'm anointed. So whenever people tell me their problems, there were other things. I'm trying to think, what were the other things? That's enough. I gave you 3 examples. Okay, so now that all happened while I was just casually talking to people. So now I started talking to people and I heard all their BS. One woman was yelling and screaming at God when I introduced. See, God comes bearing gifts, like Gordon Ramsay came bearing gifts. Not only did he bear gifts, but he came bearing the truth. Gordon brings you the truth, and the truth shall set you free. The truth shall set you free from failure. The truth shall set you free from all your financial dilemmas, because now you're going to have business. You're going to have a lot of people coming in to your premises. And both the owners and all the employees are now going to make good money. They can pay their bills. They can buy what they want and need. Many of their problems will be solved. So Gordon, some of them have very faulty or bad or antiquated or dinosaur type equipment, like stoves that don't work, ovens that don't fire up hot enough. They have burners on top that suddenly start burning like they're on fire, and they hard to control. Then they have pilot lights that don't work. They have to use matches. Um, they have very old, broken down equipment that's not adequate, that doesn't have enough burners. Their refrigeration units are broken down and no good. And Gordon suddenly, like he snaps his magical fingers, and all these big companies suddenly supply them with free, you heard me? Free equipment, free ovens, free ranges, free freezers, free equipment of all types. In some places, I've seen him and Robert Irvine bring in beautiful new systems for ordering, for computer systems where the servers can deal with the credit card, can process the credit card right on their tablet, or else it's all different systems, but they're brand new systems. He brings in $10,000 worth of brand new dishes and silverware from a company for one place, or another place, all new furniture. Another place, they're completely revamped. He has their kitchens. Sometimes he makes the staff clean it, and Robert Irvine would have worked with the staff of the restaurant, the owner and the staff, and they would clean the kitchens, and the cold rooms and the storages would be absolutely filthy. Mold, filth, grime, insects, bacteria, roaches, all kinds, mice, rats, even in some places. Filthy, never been cleaned for years and years and years. And Robert Irvine would usually have the staff clean it, but sometimes Gordon Ramsay would have the staff clean it, but sometimes he would have his own people clean it. I don't know. I don't remember why some cases this, some cases that. But the premises would be cleaned when they were filthy. And even after that, sometimes the people, instead of being grateful, they would still be resisting until they got over the shock. But the point is this: I'm making a segue into how God comes, bringing gifts. Who and what is God? God is infinity. Infinity. God knows all, sees all, can do all things. You hear me? Can do all things. God can heal all your problems. God can heal your cancer. God can heal MS. God can heal myasthenia gravis. God can heal Lou Gehrig's disease. God can heal cerebral palsy. God can heal injuries. God can heal paralysis. God can heal your terrible problem. God can heal your relationships. And by the way, both Gordon and Robert Irvine were top notch with relationships. And so was that big bar rescue guy. I wish I could remember his name. Right. I haven't seen him in his show in about a year or two, and I forgot to write it down. He was a big Jewish guy, tough as anything. They all became kind of like Gordon Ramsay, tough, in your face, bullish. They took after him. They realized that that's the only way that will work to get these people out of their slumber. And some of the people fight back. Some of the people, there's one guy at this horrible place in New York City. He sued somebody. I'm trying to think if it was Gordon or Robert Irvine that sued. He sued. I think it was Gordon. He sued him. He literally sued him. A Jewish guy, litigious, obviously. Uh, and so he was totally ungrateful for what Gordon did for him. Okay, so now God comes to you, and I present God to many people at the bar in the bar restaurant. And instead of being grateful to the God who can make or break you, the God that can decide whether you go to heaven or hell for all eternity, the God who can give you a short purgatory or a long purgatory, which is very great suffering. Purgatory is, I mean, hell is, forget about what hell is. Abandon hope, all ye who enter here. I don't know if hell is eternal. Some people, even some good spiritual people, say there is no hell. There is hell. There is hell. There is hell. But the one thing I don't know, that I'm not 100% certain about, is it forever, where the gates or the doors will never open again, like the Christian church and the Catholic church says, or does it just last until the end of time, or until hundreds or thousands of years, maybe in some cases, and then a person is permitted once again to live? I don't know. You can believe either way. You can believe it's forever eternal, abandon hope, all ye who enter here, you'll never get out. You can believe that if you wish. Or you can believe, well, maybe I'll get out in a few thousand years and God will show mercy on all those in hell. I don't know. It's up to you. You decide what you want to believe, okay? So now, I've seen hell, by the way. I'm not going to talk about it now. That's going to be a separate podcast. Okay, so now God comes with gifts, bigger gifts than Gordon. Gordon and Robert Irvine have gifts, big gifts from big companies. My God, new equipment, new furnishings, new decor, new walls, new lights, new lamps, clean out all the filth, the dust, the spider webs, the chewing gum under the tables, the chairs falling apart, the dust, the mold, the filth on the rugs, stinky rugs, stinky, because they haven't been cleaned in 10 years properly. If they were clean, they weren't properly clean. Maybe they were vacuumed, but they weren't washed. You got to wash these rugs in public areas. I mean, people spill things. Believe me, in a restaurant, you're going to have all kinds of spillage, for heaven's sake. Not to even mention the foot traffic and the dirt that comes on people's shoes. I mean, imagine during the times of rain and mud. People come in, they don't take off their shoes. They bring the rain and mud into the restaurant right on the rug, if you have a rug on the floor. So rugs, I wouldn't want a rug in my restaurant. I wouldn't. I would not want a rug, not a wall-to-wall rug, not a nailed-down rug. I would prefer it was something else on the floor besides that. so you can clean it properly, because so it won't stink. I have a wall-to-wall rug in my. I have 3 rooms that are a living room, a L-shaped living room, 3 rooms, and my lady who was helping me uh, decorate, my interior decorator, was she recommended this rug that she got. She says, yeah, for her special price, and it's a light beige. And I've done this before. I did this in my apartment in Brooklyn. I should have learned my lesson. I will never make a wall-to-wall rug again. If I had my Garuthers, if I could make a miracle, I would rip out this wall-to-wall rug. I would rip it out, because you can never keep it clean. You cannot keep it clean just with the limited traffic I have. And I've got runners of all types, plastic runners, and so what's the point of having a rug if it's all covered with runners? What's the point? It's all covered with plastic runners, and the part that isn't is dirty. And I don't have the energy to keep it constantly cleaning and washing and cleaning and washing. I used to do that in my apartment in Brooklyn until I wasn't there long enough to get the rug dirty. So I would put a linoleum. I don't want to spend the money for tiles or expensive floors like polished cement like they have in some mansions. Like I know that Frank Lloyd Wright had polished cement in the houses that he designed. And I'm sure that cost plenty money. And they have other flooring that is exquisite, but it's very, very expensive. Certainly around here. And here I live in the boondocks in a poor area. I don't even know if they have available the exquisite type of flooring that they have in some sophisticated areas. So, I wouldn't. I don't even know if they have it available. But what I would do was, what I would be a black and white um linoleum, black squares, black and white squares. That's what I would like, a checkerboard squares. I've done that in rooms in the past, and it looks beautiful. Okay, so God comes to bring you life and life abundantly. I am not saying God should be used like a Santa Claus. I am not saying that. I am not a prosperity preacher in the way the mega churches preach prosperity. I believe in prosperity like this, the way Catherine Ponder teaches it. Catherine Ponder teaches that prosperity is both spiritual and physical. For instance, how did Jesus Christ achieve prosperity? He achieved prosperity. Prosperity is success. He achieved success through the cross. So poverty is prosperity. Emptiness, empty yourself of everything but the love of God. Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Empty yourself so God can fill you up. That is prosperity. But it's the opposite of filling yourself up with things, with people, with status, the way that the fake prosperity preachers like Benny Hinn, um, Paula White, oh, there's just a whole list of them. Oh, just look on Trinity. Just look up prosperity preachers. I can't think of all their names. Duplantis, um, they have jet planes. The guys with the jet planes, the ladies. I don't know if any of the ladies have jet planes. Joel Osteen, that lady. What's that lady's name? Oh, I can't think of them. I try not to think of them. I don't want to think of them. These people, to me, they're so ugly. I don't want to think about them. They hold on a minute. They preach that God will give you everything you want. Well, what do I want? I want God. Okay, here they are. Joyce Meyer, Kenneth Copeland, Paula White, Benny Hinn, Creflo Dollar, the Word of Faith people, Gloria Copeland, Jesse Duplantis, Joel Osteen. I said a couple of them, I repeated them. So that's just a small sample of them, and they preach the wrong kind of prosperity. Prosperity is go. Sell all you have, give to the poor, and follow me. Prosperity is empty yourself, deny yourself, take up your cross and follow me, and you will find prosperity because you will have God. God is prosperity. The gifts of the Holy Spirit, having them, is prosperity. Discernment of spirits, fear of the Lord, fortitude, knowledge, understanding, wisdom, the gifts of power, healing, and miracles. That's prosperity. Having that is prosperity. And you are not, N-O-T, not going to receive these gifts if you are full of self, if all you pray for is God. Give me enough money to have a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or a Rolls Royce or a limousine or a jet plane. Give me the money for that. God, give me the money for an expensive fur coat. Give me the money so I can live in a mansion or a compound like Joel Osteen and Joyce Meyer and Benny Hinn and all these Duplantis and whoever these guys are, Kenneth Copeland. They live in multi-million dollar compounds and have jet planes and phantom Rolls Royces and Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Hummers and $10,000 watches, and they stop at the most expensive hotels in the world just for a stopover before they go to preach somewhere. And they say that their jet plane is a tool and they don't want to go in a commercial plane because it's full of demons. Well, you're the demon. You're the biggest demon of them all. Yeah, there's always some demons wherever there's a crowd of people, but you're the biggest demon of them all. And you're leading other people into hell. Prosperity is virtue, patience, kindness, mellowness, forgiveness. Pray for forgiveness, not things. Pray that God help you forgive your enemies. Yes, give things to the poor. Give things to those who even those who despise you. Jesus specifically said, even those sinners, wicked, evil people are nice to them who are nice to the people who are nice to them. They loan money to those they know will give it back. They give feasts and fetes and favors to those who they know will return these favors. That's thinking like the world, the world, the world. Your greatest enemies are the world, the flesh, and the devil. I'm not saying that the flesh of itself is evil, but the temptations of the flesh that will draw you down away from God. Gluttony, too much lust. I mean, if lust is sexual desire, that's normal and natural. Sex is not a sin in my new religion. But, and I believe Jesus backs me up on that. I'll get into that another time. I'll talk about sex, a whole podcast. But inordinate lust, let's put it this way, inordinate lust where people use others or even rape and abuse others, that's sinful. Okay, so that's how the flesh pulls you down. The flesh pulls you down for wanting things. The flesh pulls you down for wanting status. Pontius Pilate had status. King Herod had status. The Roman emperor had status. But he was a warlord, wasn't he? Pontius Pilate was a servant of a warlord. King Herod was a murderer. A murderer. Murdered innocent children and others. But they had status. The world honors murderers. The world honors the pioneers who went out and murdered indigenous people, the Aborigines, the American Indians, the South American Indians, the Aztecs were murdered by pioneers that we're taught to honor in our school curriculum. We're taught to honor murderers, warlords, men who killed thousands, hundreds of thousands, even millions of people. I'm not talking Stalin and Hitler. I'm talking about other leaders who murdered people in the Western world, even Americans, American leaders. We're taught to honor them. I don't mean wars of defense like George Washington. defending against Britain. I don't mean that kind of wars, but I mean wars of aggression, wars of conquest, wars of imperialism, wars of wanting to conquer countries and suck up all their resources, those kind of wars. All right, so now back to God. God brings us gifts. Do not use God as Santa Claus or that big magician in the sky. Gimme, gimme, gimme. I know people who use God as a magician. They pray, they honor God, only to get what they can. If you honor God just to get what you can of the world, this is not very righteous, is it? Then you're on a very low level spiritually. You might not even make it. Okay, some of these people will make it because they do good deeds. Some of them, they do good deeds. They're not like wicked evil. They're not filled with hate toward God, but they use God. They use God for things. Okay, God does give you things. Only ask for what you need, not what you don't need. What do you need to survive? What do you need to get by day to day? What do you need to do your work, especially your work for God? God, like with these restaurants, Gordon gives them what they need. He doesn't give them a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or a limousine or a jet plane. He gives them the ovens and the equipment they need. He gives them the dishes and silver they need. He gives them a beautiful revamped restaurant that they need. These are things they need. He gives them a new computer system to take orders and process credit card. They need. There's nothing wrong with asking what you need. And sometimes you need your health. And sometimes you don't need your health. Sometimes your health actually brings you, bad health, I should say, brings you closer to God. So whenever you pray for anything you pray for, say, if it is your will, sometimes an illness will bring you closer to God. Sometimes an illness will bring you the gifts of the Holy Spirit. Sometimes an illness will make you turn to God when you were ignoring God. You were acting like you didn't need God. Suddenly you got a fatal illness or a serious illness or any kind of illness, and you realize you need God. And you call out to God. So God allowed that sickness to happen to you. But if you call on God every day, if you pray every day, you do good every day, you go to Mass or church, or like me, you say the Eucharist every day, the Holy Mass. You say the Holy Mass every day for the souls in purgatory. You say your prayers every day. You say your prayers every day, sincere, heartfelt prayers, Our Father, Hail Mary, any kind of prayers, your Hindu prayers, your Buddha prayers, your Muslim prayers, your Jewish prayers, any kind of prayers, your Wicca prayers, your prostrations, I should say, bowing, kneeling, loving God, your rosaries. You're calling on God for your needs and the needs of your loved ones and the needs of the world, the needs of the animals, the needs of Mother Nature to be protected. Needs, not luxuries. These mega preachers are fooling themselves. They're deluding themselves to think they need jet planes. They need multi-million dollar compound. What did Jesus have of luxury? And yet look what he built. Why do they need limousines and hundreds of servants and jet planes to do a ministry? Why? Why? Did Jesus use carriages? Yes, he had many people assisting him. Yes, he had the holy women that provided from their means. It's right there in the Bible. I think it is John. The holy women, Joanna Chusa, Susanna, the Holy Mother and her sister Mary Cleophas, They provided from their means. But it was what Jesus needed. It wasn't luxury. It was just ordinary food. Ordinary means, ordinary transportation. Jesus rode on a donkey, not a jet plane. He walked. If he had to have carriages, he'd say, well, I got to have 6 men carry me wherever I go, or I can't do my ministry. That's what these guys and women are saying. We need these jet planes. We need all these limousines. No, you don't. You're deluded. I'm talking about delusion. That's the subject of this podcast is delusion. Delusion. All right. I've come to the conclusion of the delusion of this subject. So now we will move on to something else momentarily. And I wish you a good day. I wish you peace, peace of mind. I wish you truth. I wish you love. I wish you blessings. If God wills it, I wish you get your bills paid. I wish you get healed. I wish your children get well, you get well, your parents get well, everybody in your family get well. God bless you. I love you. We will see you again in the very near future. Go with God. Amen.